Back in June, we went hands-on with Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, a new 2D Metroidvania take on the long-running dashing and slashing franchise. We were thrilled when we learned that Ubisoft Montpellier is the team creating this new adventure, as its past games like Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends were incredibly unique works of art, and The Lost Crown quickly jumped up the ranks of games we're most looking forward to playing in 2024. While our time with The Lost Crown was smooth and snappy and seems like a promising title for Metroid fans, we didn't really consider that this new entry could be straying too far away from what made the Sands of Time trilogy and Jordan Mechner's original games so special. There are plenty of titles vying for the throne shared by Samus and the Belmonts, so will this crown lose its luster over time compared to its contemporaries, or can this prince weather the sandstorm that lies ahead? Ubisoft kindly invited and flew us all the way out to their San Francisco office and let us hunker down with the Lost Crown for 3.5 hours. We fought and defeated 5 unique bosses, acquired plenty of new abilities, and saw the plot take all sorts of twists and turns. Unlike our last demo, this time we played all the way through on Nintendo Switch in docked mode, and while some of the impressive in-game engine cutscenes may have dropped a few frames, the rest of the game ran like an absolute dream during our time with it. One element that made itself abundantly clear from the get-go was that The Lost Crown puts heavy emphasis on story. For most games in the Metroid series, the narrative often takes a back seat and is told through ambient, environmental changes, and your overall actions as the player. That eerie feeling that you get when landing on a dark and unexplored planet is one of Samus's great hallmarks, and there's not usually a whole lot of dialogue that surrounds it. The Lost Crown, however, appears to have a much deeper story it wants to tell, with the new protagonist Sargon front and center. We thought we had the story entirely figured out after the first opening hour. Then, we realized by the time our demo was over, we had more questions than we started with. To add to this, we found loads of lore sprinkled throughout the world in the form of collectible items. But Sargon's pals, the Immortals, can also be found searching the world for answers to their troubles. Occasionally, they'll help progress the story, but other times they're just available for a quick chat to make the world feel a little less lonely. You'll also find other characters on your journey who you can purchase items and upgrades from too, who simultaneously can help you breathe a little sigh of relief after a potentially tough moment. That's not to say the game is all sunshine and rainbows though either. Those of us who experienced Prince of Persia: Warrior Within at a questionably young age will remember the fear the Dahaka could strike into you. Sargon has a grueling journey ahead of him, in part thanks to a new enemy type that draws some inspiration from the Emmy found in Metroid Dread, but made more terrifying with a simple twist. We won't spoil the surprise for you here, but just know that we genuinely shrieked during our demo after coming face to face with it for the first time. Another thing we greatly appreciated about The Lost Crown is the options given for approachability. This particular genre hasn't always been the friendliest towards newcomers, but this prince lets you pick from multiple difficulty settings and even lets you play using a guide on your map that'll help point you in the right direction if you need it. However, if you prefer to forge your own path forward, you can switch to a mode without the map assist feature at any time. Now, a core element of the Metroidvania genre often involves blocking progress to certain areas until you receive a particular item or weapon upgrade. If it's cleverly designed, the map may naturally loop back around without the need to remember the places you discovered earlier in your journey. And The Lost Crown offers a genius feature that allows you to take a snapshot of your field of view and place it directly on your map to check later on. Now, you're only given a select amount of times you can use this ability, but you can delete old snapshots in order to take more later. Some may argue that backtracking is one of the main ingredients that makes up this formula, but the same could be said for random encounters in turn-based RPGs, and depending on how much time you're given in a day to play a game, you may choose to skip those random encounters or use auto battle. So in The Lost Crown, if you run into a treasure chest that's just out of reach or find a path that you can't move through quite yet, the Eye of the Wanderer tool helps keep tabs on tasks for later on, and makes encountering those barriers a bit more exciting from the get-go. So we already sang the praises of the combat in our initial hands-on session, which I'll leave a link to in the description down below if you want to go back and read that, but we're still impressed with the array of abilities Sargon has at his disposal. Most enemy attacks can be parried or even outright cancelled with Sargon's moveset, which seems to expand steadily over the course of the game. First, we were given a simple set of swords, and it's surprising to see how much Sargon can do with those, as he has different attacks in the air and on the ground. Then you're given a bow and arrow and a chakram, which not only can you use to defeat enemies, you can also use them to help solve puzzles. Adding to all of this, Sargon will also acquire different amulets throughout the journey that can help boost his attack and even give him new ones. In case you're curious, we've also been told to expect the main adventure to take around 20 to 25 hours to complete, but we're sure speedrunners will absolutely demolish those potential playtimes anyways. At the Ubisoft Forward event this past summer, we confirmed The Lost Crown on Switch was running at a smooth 60 FPS even in handheld mode, and while we were slightly worried the developers weren't going to hit their goal in docked mode, we're pleased to share we had nothing to be worried about. If you stop and stare at our Switch screenshots for too long, the game can look a bit empty and muddy in places, but seeing The Lost Crown in motion made all of our worries disappear. It's impressive to see games like this do so much with the aging Switch hardware. Characters looked sharp and striking, and outside of a few cutscenes here and there on Switch, we didn't notice a single stutter during gameplay. This really is shaping up to be the real 60 FPS deal with all the bells and whistles we hoped for. So in a world full of incredible Metroidvanias, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown has us anxiously awaiting the new year, so we can dive back into its world once again. Our session came to such a climactic close that it had us wishing we could have flipped our hourglass back over to play some more. With the way the godlike Manicore showdown got our blood pumping the first and second time we faced it, we're dying to see what other surprising fights are lurking just around the corner. There are so many incredible story beats that we wish we could share with you here, but we'll be able to discuss and play more when the time comes next month. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is scheduled to launch on Nintendo Switch and other platforms on January 18th of 2024. Thanks again to Ubisoft for taking the chance, trusting us, and flying us all the way out to their San Francisco office to check out the game. Getting to share these early in-depth looks at some of the most exciting games in the industry is what I live for. So if you're curious to see more, we also have another video up featuring tons of Nintendo Switch exclusive gameplay of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown that I captured myself. I'm also working on a brief interview that I had with the lead cinematic director of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown as well, and that one still needs a bit more time in the oven, but look forward to it. And if you haven't subscribed to Nintendo Life already, then why don't you rewind your thoughts and go ahead and click that subscribe button before it's too late. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Zion from Nintendo Life. Stay safe out there, and we will see you all next time.